In the Impact segment today, more bad news in the war on drugs. The General Accounting Office says that despite a $20 billion interdiction effort, drugs like heroin and cocaine are pure and plentiful on the streets of America. GAO's report criticizes the United States for lacking a long-term drug-fighting plan and for failing to coordinate drug-fighting agencies. This is not good news for the Clinton administration. With us is Stanton, a fellow with the Linda Smith Center, which is a drug policy institute funded by millionaire George Soros, who is a proponent of legalizing marijuana, among other things.
He's a billionaire.
He's a billionaire now, huh? Well, that's good for George.
You're a millionaire. Okay. He's a billionaire.
Not me. I'm just a hard-working guy. Now, give us, I don't think there's anybody out there who's going to say that the United States has been successful in the war on drugs, except maybe a few real hardline policy people working in the administration. What is the key here to winning this war, in your estimation?
We have to reconceptualize what we're about. What we've been doing for 10 years, for 20 years, for 30 years clearly doesn't work. In 1980, we spent $1 billion on the war on drugs. You just quoted a figure of $20 billion. What are we getting for our money? In fact, we have more severe cases of drug addiction. The tracking study that sees how many people have entered hospitals because of acute reactions to drugs shows that we have 10 times the number of heroin and cocaine hospital admissions that we did in 1980.
And that may be because the drugs are pure. There are more of them on the streets. There are an estimated 4 to 6 million heavily addicted people in the United States. Does your institute buy that number?
It's probably an overestimate, but we buy the fundamental point, which is the administration points proudly to the fact that in 1980 we had more drug users in the United States. We have the same number, however, of heavy and addicted users today that we had in 1980.
What would that number be if you're not saying between 4 and 6 million?
Well, the administration had 25 million people using illicit drugs in the previous month in 1980. Now they have 12 million. They say there's some additional addicts beyond that. But if you look at the number of people who've taken cocaine in these surveys and who've taken it daily, it's only a few 100,000 people. So perhaps there's some that we're not tapping, maybe a million and a half.
The New York City authorities estimate that there are between 250,000 and 400,000 heroin addicts in New York City alone, and I believe that's true. I mean, they attribute 70% of the crime to drug-addicted individuals and 70% of the child abuse calls.
I guess one of the problems we have is a definitional one. There are people who are out there hurting themselves, taking drugs they shouldn't. Of course, heroin users are at the highest risk now for HIV infection. Remarkably few of them look like what we imagine a heroin addict to look like the man in the golden arm. One of the problems we have in dealing with drugs in America is that we deal entirely in myths and images. Most heroin users can have some kind of control over their lives. One policy that's used in every Western country, but not in the United States, is needle exchange. In the United States, we say, if they take heroin, they're going to go crazy and kill people on the street. In other countries, they say, we can control these lives. They may not be doing the right thing, but we can at least lower the spread of HIV.
Yeah, all right, but let's try to solve the problem rather than the interim gap. I don't care about the needle exchange program. If it's around,
you sound
fine.
just like McCaffrey.
Nah,
See,
no, look, if a state wants to fund it and a local community wants to fund it, it's fine with me. But that's not going to stop.
We have federal laws against HIV, against needle exchange. It's illegal to use.
But some states do have the programs. If they want to have them, that's fine. It's a local matter in my estimation.
Well,
but how do you solve the problem? How do you? A needle exchange program isn't going to cut down on drug-related crime.
It is, well.
It won't.
A needle exchange program is going to. A needle exchange program is going to cut down on HIV infection,
yes,
which
not
is
drug-related crime,
which costs us billions a year for starters, right there.
Okay, but let's stay on topic here.
That's the problem we have is how we conceive the problem. You, perhaps, and certainly General McCaffrey, and believe that we can have zero tolerance for drugs. Let's just eliminate all drugs. And while we're at it, by the way, let's eliminate teenage sex. It's not going to happen. Anybody looking at this realistically is going to say we have a certain level of problem. If we can contain that and minimize the problems connected with that, if we can minimize HIV infection, if we can minimize
now I got
crime.
you. I know where you're coming from. So you want to contain it, make it a less insidious problem by either giving them drugs or giving them needles, giving them a way to operate within society so they don't hurt anybody else.
And not only, in our logic, in the United States' current logic, we say we don't want to give them needles. That encourages drug use. In fact, research shows that
you're preaching to the converted.
When you make contact with people,
about the needles.
When you make contact with people, you have a greater chance to lure them into this straight life to become a millionaire like yourself.
Why not force them into rehabilitation? Coerced drug rehabilitation, which has been shown to work.
Well, the United States is overrun with coercion right now in treatment. There's very little distinction between treatment and penal approaches because we take PENAL, that is, we take people into jail and we say, go to treatment while you're at it. If you can't get people to buy into what it is that you're offering them. One problem, for example, in New York State you may be familiar with, 12-step programs, AA, compelling inmates to take them, was ruled unconstitutional because a lot of people don't buy into that rap.
In Alabama, they have coerced drug rehabilitation for anyone who's arrested, anyone coming into the criminal justice system. It's been shown to be very effective. Why not isolate the people who are drug addicted and committing crimes by forcing them into a rehabilitation situation for a year or two? Takes the market away. 25%
of the people that are in American prisons right now are people that are there solely for use of drugs. Most of those people would not be called addicts. The guys who get compelled to go to treatment programs are the guys who get caught driving with marijuana in their blood, or they get caught smoking marijuana in the mailroom at Exxon or something like that.
But you're not answering my question. I don't care about marijuana.
When you start using compulsory approaches, you say, here comes a guy, he's taking drugs. Let's treat him. Treat him for what? In some cases, the guy's some goof-off kid. He shouldn't be taking drugs. And now you're throwing him into a year-long or a two-year-long program.
If the man is arrested or the woman is arrested in committing a crime and is going to be convicted to jail time anyway, why not put them into a drug rehab prison?
The first thing we should do is to eliminate sanctions for people who are either can benefit from treatment on the one hand or people who aren't doing anything else wrong. If we want to keep people from taking marijuana, we should tell them that. We should find them.
You're on marijuana again. Marijuana is not the problem here. It's heroin and cocaine, the problem. You and George Soros,
even many people that use cocaine are not going to benefit from treatment, don't want treatment, and are not what we would call addicted.
They don't want it? Tough.
Why don't we treat you for all the problems that you don't think you have?
Because I'm not committing any crimes.
And they're only committing crimes because we've said, let's arrest everybody who uses cocaine. Let's call it a crime. Well, what if they live a normal life? What if they have a job? What if they take heroin and have a job?
It's against the law to traffic in drugs in the United States.
Well, there's a difference, isn't there, between trafficking and using. And the problem is most of the people that we're lining up in jails aren't those guys down in Latin America who are trading drugs. There's some schlep, if I can use that technical term, in New York City who's
breaking into cars or mugging people. They're not just picking people up who use cocaine. They're arresting people who are committing crimes to support that habit.
How many of these problems are due to our regulations and how many are due to the drugs?
How many are due to failure for people to take responsibility for their own actions?
I agree with you 100%. And by the way, mixing up treatment and punitive approaches has that danger as well. Guy comes in, remember Joel Steinberg? He would have beaten that rap if he wasn't such a monster. He could have claimed crack addiction was his problem.
Well, look, we only have 30 seconds to go. I'll give you the last word on it. Any hope of solving this problem?
We need to be bold enough to say, let's reconsider this problem. Let's penalize people that commit crimes. Let's help people or leave people alone who are taking drugs and not hurting anybody.
All right. Say hello to Mr. Soros for me. I'm glad he's a billionaire.
We'll
Thanks,
have
Mr.
breakfast tomorrow and talk about it.
Plenty more ahead as we continue. Are vans and utility vehicles making people drive crazy? We'll find out.